United States is a very beautiful country. And as much as you're going to have success, you're going to have failures as well, too.
Yes.
And what I would say is that one thing about the United States, it still is a way to get it done. And the way to get it done, even though we may be at a disadvantage because of skin color and so forth, is by having capital. It's by having capital. And I want individuals to understand that. That's a huge element of it as well, too. And you look like you wanted to say something on that one, Ray, too.
Actually, you hit it just right. And I want to share with the audience where what you're saying is absolute truth. The United States of America is, I'm American. I defended America. I wore the uniform for 13 years of my life. I give United States 13 years of my life. And if I were to give it again, I'll do it tomorrow in a heartbeat. I get on a plane to defend that country. No problem. But I want you to know that to become something, to take advantage of what the United States have to offer, sometimes you have to go through walls. Let me give you an example. So when I was working for SAIC, as a young man, I was 34 years old, and I was working for a very high senior level person at the Pentagon. He was a 3-star level. He was the assistant secretary to the Air Force. And so I knew that if I could get this guy's attention, I could get to places. So what did I do? I focused, I studied, I learned my craft. I was able to really comfortable to the work that I've handed to him. Before I even got there, I want to go back to a couple of years back. I was working at the State Department. The head of my office was a gentleman by the name of Colin Powell.
We all know who that is.
Yes. So when I was working for Colin Powell's office, my job was to develop performance metrics on how to measure the impact we're having in the Muslim countries, because we're bringing Muslim kids to the United States. We're trying to indoctrinate them in the way of life in America. Mm-hmm. So we had a budget for that. And my job was to provide the metrics on how we're doing, how we're progressing. So that was my job. So I found a way to create a 1-page report and come up with the proper way to measure and hand it up to the Secretary of State at that time, was General Colin Powell. So in everything that I have done in my life, you always have to find a way to stand above the others. There's one way to be successful in America, regardless of how hard people try to keep you down. If you're very, very smart and you learn your craft, no one, I repeat, no one can keep you down.
Yep.
Because I was 34 years old. I had guys that were trying to fight and hard and scrape to get the attention of a 3-star general equivalent. And here I am sitting back, provide the right deliverables, and then my deliverable stood above the rest. That's how I got attention. That's how I was able to get my first contract and multiply that. That's how I was able to build a $10 million company, revenue a year, just by showing that, okay, this guy, it doesn't matter what the color of his skin, we need to get this guy's attention to do work for us, because he's going to provide us exactly what we need to deliver ourselves, to look good ourselves, because those guys, they want to look good. I make him look good by providing the right stuff. So yes, there are issues. It could be a lot easier for us, but if you want to work hard, you don't mind running through brick walls, you're going to stand above the rest.
Guys, think about this in your career, and think about what Ray said. Your leaders want to look good. Think about that. Your leaders want to look good. He was doing this for General Colin Powell at that time. Okay.
Mhm.
You want to make them look good. If you make them look good, they're going to take care of you. No matter
Yes.
how many other people are trying to fight for that person's attention, they're going to take care of you if you make them look good and you study and you are good at your craft.
Yes.
I don't care if you're in a corporate world. I don't care if you are an entrepreneur, all of that, right? We talk about that as far as ladder climbing within our career. And one of the
Yeah.
things I always talk about is, guys, you have to manage up, but also at the same time, you have to understand the power structures. You make your leaders look good, you do the work necessary because
Yeah.
you are really good at what you do. You're going to be able to make I don't want to say unlimited amount of money, but a lot of money. And you see from Ray's perspective, he was able to land contracts to build
Yes.
a company with over $10 million in revenue. I want, and that's the piece of thinking big, guys. All right. Think about this from the aspect of thinking big. And then, Ray, I want you to continue on along the journey as well, too, because you didn't talk about how you were able to start the company and build it and that journey, but talk about that as well, too, Ray.
Okay. So when I left the Marine Corps, uh, it was actually another wonderful story. So in San Francisco, for the nuclear research company I was working for, the leader of my group of VP he was not in the military. His father was in the Air Force, and he was a military brat. So he respected military individuals. Once he found out I was in the Marines, and he said, "This is wonderful. How about this? We'll send you to grad school. I want you to grow with us here. I want you to become a junior executive." At that time, they used to have a program for junior executives. He says, "I think you're well in place for this." It just so happened after they paid for my grad school, so I had to give them an extra 2 years in return. And the company went to a downside. That was the big bubble from the West. 2000, I want to say 1999, 2000. We had the major bubble in the IT market, and the company decided to cut back on their executive program. So they called me. They said, "Listen, Ray, we cannot keep you. You can stay as a nuclear financial analyst, but we cannot keep you. You can leave. We'll waive the 2 years that you owe us because we couldn't give you what we promised you anymore." I said, "Okay." So I looked for jobs, and I looked at AOL at that time, and I filed an application for the State Department. I went to interview in DC, and I took on that assignment working in the office of General Colin Powell. That at that time, because of the work that I did in support of General Colin Powell, there was another general that took notice and said, "Listen, I have a very good friend of mine. He's a retired general, full star. He works at SAIC. I think you should go with him. Matter of fact, we will help you build your own company if you come with us." So I said, "Okay." So those generals, one of them was actually a pilot for George Bush Sr. You see, your career you become very lucky to meeting people. It's not luck, you creating your own luck, right?
Mm.
So by your knowledge and what you can provide to them, because DC, it's about what can you do for me, right? That's all this is all about. As long as you have knowledge, you apply it properly, people will seek you out.
Mm.
So I moved to SAIC. After 5 years at SAIC, I felt very comfortable. I learned how to do the contracting business, and then I decided to start my own shop. Starting my own shop wasn't that easy because then it became a political game, right? But there was one person at the Pentagon that said, "You want this contract, you must bring this young man with you as a subcontractor." So that general officer called me and said, "Don't worry, we know you don't have a job right now. You're starting your own thing. We are going to demand that this company brings you on." You see that? Connections, your knowledge, what you can provide. So that three-star general knew by me coming into that contract that he's going to get a certain level of deliverables done, accomplished properly. So that was my first contract, right? 6 months later, I got a call from the Surgeon General's office. Someone who knows me from that office say, "Hey, sir, you should meet this young man." And I told him that I can build a software for them so he can manage home-based nuclear assets. So I built that software to manage home-based nuclear assets. I designed the software. Again, I had my second contract. And then somebody who knew that office knew of my work. They called me on. Then I won another contract. So one thing led to another. The building of my business wasn't that I had a great marketing mind. No, it was all about my knowledge of my craft, and then those people, by supporting them, they're the ones who are going to make the phone call, introduce you to somebody else, and get you that process, that structure went all the way to the end of my time in 2018 in the United States until I moved to Poland.
It's a network effect, right?
Yes.
It's not only that, it's having a brand,
Yes.
being so good at what you do to where other people notice it. And not only that, other people are going to vouch for you. But
Yep.
you, Ray, being fantastic at what you do, keeping a clean brand, right? There wasn't any sort of chaos going on to where that reached the public. You knew that you had to have everything sharp, clean,
Yep.
and you delivered for other individuals.
Yes.
And they're going to take care of you and introduce you to other individuals as well too. I think about it from the standpoint of the small scale of me talking to Ronnie, right? Had a great conversation with Ronnie in our first introductions, right? Ronnie and I continue to stay in contact with each other. Ronnie and I got to a point where we, built a good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And Ronnie introduced me to Mr. Ray. And here I am with Mr. Ray today, right? Somebody who can bring so much value to the Black Heights platform and be an inspiration to the audience on this platform. Where, guys, if you aren't taking notes today and you aren't learning, then you probably have something wrong with your ears, or you're not paying attention. But what's been said so far today in this show is how you can navigate life, how you can navigate your career to ultimately reach a pinnacle of success and a great amount of success as well.